Welcome, new nurses, to the Regulated Nurse Foundations for New Grads. This is a beginner friendly roadmap for new nurses who want confidence, clarity, and sustainable success without burnout. Stepping into nursing is overwhelming emotionally, mentally, and physically. New Grad 101 is your structured foundation for becoming a confident, regulated nurse who leads with clarity, emotional stability, and professional presence. Instead of surviving your first year, this module helps you build the identity, systems, and habits that allow you to thrive. So, in this presentation, you will learn how to regulate your nervous system on and off the floor, communicate with calm authority, manage stress response, and avoid the common pitfalls that lead to burnout, emotional spending, and self doubt. With tools, scripts, and checklists and guided reflections, you'll develop the inner stability and professional rhythm every successful nurse needs. Whether you're preparing for your very first shift or trying to regain control after a rough start, this module gives you the confidence, structure, and support to grow into the nurse you were called to be. By the end of this module, you will understand what's actually happening inside your mind and body during stress. Build a regulation first approach to care, communication, and decision making. Strengthen your professional identity and emotional resilience. Learn how to advocate for yourself and protect your energy. Establish routines for confidence, clarity, and sustainable performance. And you'll gain tools you can use immediately before, during, and after every shift. So, this course isn't just for new grads. It could be nursing students transitioning into practice, new hires starting a new unit or specialty, and any nurse who wants to build confidence, regulation, and their professional presence. So, your first year sets the foundation for your entire career. Today, we'll build confidence, emotional regulation, safe practice, and leadership skills you'll carry for a lifetime. We will cover the new nurse mindset, emotional regulation, clinical essentials, prioritization, communication and delegation, documentation 101, handoff mastery, time management, boundaries, and professional identity. So the new grad trinity is I put together because I feel like mind, skill, and identity all come together. Here, you're not just learning tasks, you're building your identity. And when your mind is regulated, your skills become stronger and you show up as the nurse you were meant to be. So, we're looking at your new identity, new nurse mindset, who you are becoming. A calm, regulated, safe nurse, confident communicator, lifelong learner, a patient advocate, and a nurse who leads with presence and not panic. So, your nervous system is your superpower. A regulated nurse makes fewer mistakes. So, trying these regulation strategies can help. Um, so, I recommend trying 4 breaths before entering a room. Slow your pace by 10%. Use an anchor phrase. I move with calm precision. Hydrate every hour. Pause and think, and then proceed. So, essentials you've already learned in nursing school, but we'll just touch on briefly here. It's your foundational skill set, head to toe assessment, vital signs interpretation, medicine administration safety, recognizing patient trends, knowing normal versus abnormal, and asking questions early. So, prioritizing essentials is how to know what comes first. And always you're going to focus on airway, breathing, and circulation, your ABCs. And once you understand those, anything else that is a safety threat, time sensitive medications, pain, discomfort, and any documentation and updates would follow that. But that's how you kind of triage your care for the day, because calm nurses prioritize better than fast nurses. So, time management is very important. Your hour by hour flow. You want to start in the morning. Your first hour is assessments, vitals, and safety checks. Then, mid shift is meds, documentation, and tasks. And last hour, follow up, charting, prepping for report. Build micro breaks to prevent burnout. You know that you're probably passing meds and having to document and chart throughout the whole shift, but you definitely want to try to get that done earlier in the day and not batch it all together at the end where you're having to stay over and chart late and, you know, um, be less time with your family or um, the it can save you a lot of time if you just chart as you go. I know it's easier said than done, um, but it definitely is helpful. So, knowing when to delegate, this can be a touchy subject because you definitely don't want to have the expectation that you can dump everything on your CNA that day or your break nurse or your charge nurse. You are ultimately responsible for the care that's being provided to your patient. So, some days you won't have a CNA. Uh, you definitely will not gain any favor by always delegating any little task to your CNA. You should be there helping them and working alongside them. Also, when they're going in to change or clean a patient, you want to be checking their skin with them. You can't just expect the CNA to come back and trust that you're going to get a um, good clear report on the state of the patient's skin. You really need to be there assessing it for yourself. Also, you don't want to always dump on to the break nurse and save all your tasks for, as soon as you go on break, you dump everything onto the person that's giving you holding the phone or giving you the break. That is also not a good practice. Ultimately, it is your responsibility. So be efficient, but definitely if you're overwhelmed and you have a lot on your plate, it doesn't hurt to ask for help. One or two things throughout the day to assist you to get your charting done. And in the beginning, you may need more help than you will need later, but everyone could contribute, and this enhances patient care. But you also want to follow up and make sure anything that you have delegated that it's been completed. You need to be accountable and hold people accountable, but also ultimately, like I said, it's your responsibility. You need to foster team communication, reinforce the importance of collaboration, and this is where leadership starts, where you can collaborate with your coworkers and get the help you need, but also um, take responsibility and make sure that the patient's getting the best care they possibly can. So, documentation 101, and I'm sure they taught you this in nursing school. If you didn't chart it, you didn't do it. So, a good thing to remember is to always chart what you see, what you do, what you teach, and what you assess. Basically, everything. The more accurate your charting is, the more that you are covering your ass. If you ever were to get subpoenaed to go to court for something, a patient that you took care of years ago, and for whatever reason, and it happens, they say the more they accurately and thoroughly that you chart, you will have nothing that can trip you up on the stand if they're questioning you about your charting. What did you do? um did you do this for them, or did you give that med? Did you turn the patient? Did you check this? the more accurately that you chart, the better you're going to remember if you're ever pulled into court on a patient case for whatever reason. You just keep that in mind whenever you're charting. That helped me to think through, what I wanted to remember if this ever came back on me later. So use objective language, avoid copy and pasting, do real-time documentation. I know it's easier said than done, but if you can, as much as you can, do real-time documentation to prevent any errors and so you don't forget anything. And if it's not charted, it didn't happen, right? Don't forget that. So communication excellence. Confident nurses speak clearly. They speak up, they speak their mind, they advocate. Be sure to know your SBAR situation, background assessment, and recommendation. Anticipate what the doctor is going to ask you before you call him. It never fails. You go to call because there's something emergent and he asks you for the vitals and you haven't checked them in an hour or two. Make sure you have everything set before you call. And this enhances clarity, communication, and ensures critical information is conveyed accurately. Um, you don't want to have them trip you up and catch you off guard and have to run and check something. So mentally prepare for those conversations that you're going to have before you actually have them. Repeat back any doctor's orders for safety. When they give you an order, make sure you repeat it back word for word to make sure there's no miscommunication. Slower speech equals more authority. So sometimes speaking slower is clearer. Clarify orders. Do not guess. If you're not sure, call them back and ask. And always use a professional tone, even when you're under stress. So when you're in a code or when you're in a critical situation, you definitely want to use your big girl voice, speak up, and be confident and share information, closed loop communication. So if an order is given, you want to call out that that order has been completed, and so that there's nobody else running to go get the glucometer when you've already checked the blood sugar, something like that. If you've given the med, say, I've given that med at this time. And so no one's running to try to give that same med at the time that, because they didn't hear that you gave it. So closed loop communication can solve a lot of miscommunication, prevent errors, and yeah, be confident, speak up. So, in order to deliver a clean and confident handoff report to the oncoming shift, I recommend starting with your biggest concerns because that's going to be the thing that stands out in your head right off the bat. And it's also going to be the thing that the oncoming shift is going to need to know about and deal with for their shift. So, start with your biggest concerns. If it's vitals or you're waiting for a doctor to give orders or the problem you've been dealing with throughout the day. What that patient issue has been primarily. And then go through your S bar, include vital sign trends, mention any pending tasks that are important that will be pertinent for the oncoming shift so that doesn't get missed for the patient. Keep it structured and concise and end with, do you have any questions? I also recommend when you're getting report from your previous shift, ask 3 questions. Just think of 3 questions that you can ask instead of just listening, soaking it all in, and then writing everything down quickly so that they can get out of there. It'll stick better in your mind if you ask and clarify a couple things, like, whatever it is, when was their last bowel movement? How are they eating? Or, what are they rating their pain at? They might tell you, oh, I last gave them pain medicine at this time. You could say, well, what has their pain been rated at for you during their shift? So that there's no questions and you're going into the shift with, um, you know, it's clear in your mind and you're prepared and you feel like you know the backstory for the patient. So common mistakes and near misses, we all make mistakes. And there's always going to be a near miss. You're always going to have a situation where you go, "Oh, wow, like that could have went really bad." And luckily it didn't. But I do recommend embracing your mistakes. I know it's hard, but it's how we grow. And you definitely want to self report and learn from your mistakes. It's better to share your mistakes so other people don't make that mistake. And on top of that, it may be a process issue that needs to be fixed at your employer, at your hospital, wherever you work. There may be something that needs to be restructured on the back end so that doesn't happen to anyone else. So definitely speak up. Don't be embarrassed. Don't be too hard on yourself, because this is how we learn. This is how we grow. We've all done it, whether these senior nurses or like they say, the older nurses like to eat their young. We've all made mistakes. Everybody has done something that they regret or can't get out of their head, and we're our worst critics. But believe me, move on, learn from it. You will never make that mistake again. You will never forget it. And it fosters a culture of accountability and improvement. So unfortunately, that this is how we learn. This is how our nursing practice gets better, and how we ensure patient safety by report self-reporting. And it's going to happen. So please don't be too hard on yourself. It's happened to the best of us. So okay, professional boundaries. You may be asked to do something, or there may be a situation with high stress, and you feel pressured to do something you're not comfortable with. And I want to encourage you to speak up and say no. You got to protect your energy, and you have to protect your license. So even if people say, "Oh, we do it like this here," or "Oh, we do this, all the time." If you're uncomfortable, say so. Don't feel pressured. Don't feel peer pressured. And it doesn't hurt to say no or ask for help. And remember, you deserve breaks when you're feeling stressed. If there's a documentation concerned, please speak up. You know, ask questions. Your charge nurse, the chain of command, where if your manager is not available, you always have a house supervisor. If the doctor is not giving you what you feel the patient needs. And I always recommend anticipating what you're going to request from the doctor before you call. So if you're going to have to call and ask for something, this is kind of going back to giving report and documentation and communication. Before you call a physician, already have in mind the anticipated treatment that you want to request. So you can't just don't just call a doctor with the problem, and you know ex- without having already a solution in mind, something that you're anticipating that he's going to order or that you feel the patient needs, so that you can suggest that if needed. So we want to remember, though, that there's always, within your boundaries, if it's something you're uncomfortable with, you can always ask for help. Ask, your charge nurse, and like I said, take it up the chain of command, because ultimately you are responsible for your license. If a doctor orders something and you're unclear on it, don't move forward. Don't just trust, always trust what the physician orders. Sometimes they think they're thinking of the wrong patient. They are half asleep when you call them in the middle of the night. So if it sounds questionable, always bring it forward. Ask someone else. Have someone that you trust that you can go to with your concerns. And then just remember, if your charge nurse isn't helping, you could take it to your house supervisor. So for shift reflection, I really think it's important that you end every shift with some clarity. Get your questions answered if you have any. Think about what went well, what did I learn, what confused me, what will I improve on next shift, and who can I ask for mentorship. This is a good place for I am not your coworker. I don't know you. And, if you ever have questions, you can reach out to me and I will ask them to the best of my ability within my scope. And I'm here for you. I want to see you do well and support you. I remember feeling like, who do I ask for? I'm not sure if, I can trust these people, or, sometimes you feel like they don't have your best interest. And if you ever feel that way, just know we've all been there. And unfortunately, there's some very toxic cultures in certain departments. And so this is really what this space is for a place that people can come and feel supported, because we haven't always all had the most supportive experiences in our nursing careers, and we've worked places where you just don't have that support that really new nurses should have. So for your confidence, I recommend just reviewing your skills. Practice your S bar in your head. Try to analyze diagnosis if you're seeing patterns or you're not sure why doctors are ordering certain tests. Get yourself familiar with the treatment plans, and it's you eventually you'll get there, but just your first year, it's like the tip of the iceberg is what they told us. And then there's the whole iceberg that you can't even see under the ocean. That's what you're going to be, getting your first year. And the first year learning curve is huge, and it's can be very overwhelming because there's so much information thrown at you. And all nursing school did was give us enough to pass the NCLEX, right? I do not recommend being a nurse that comes into a new position fresh out of school and acting like you know it all. No, there's no one that knows it all. I mean, even if we've been doing it for years, there's always something you're going to learn new. Things are constantly changing. So just be humble. If people want to teach you, do not say, oh, I already know that. Oh, there's nothing you could teach me. You can learn from everyone. And just if you come into a new situation with that attitude, like, thank you. Yes, I'm here to learn. Please show me um, new ways and skills and ways of doing things. There's going to be people that want to teach. And I would just highly recommend being open to, you know, people teaching you, because you don't want to be the new nurse that comes in and people go, oh, they think they're hot, you know what, and they already act like they know everything. It's not a good look. It's just not a good look as a new nurse. I don't care what grades you got in nursing school and how well you did on your NCLEX. There's always something you can learn from everyone. For your emotional intelligence, I also feel like, this is more for someone that is feeling unsure. Um, your presence matters and you have a calling. You made it this far, and that's for a reason. You are good at what you do. You're good with people. You have a good bedside manner. But these are just reminders. Maintain a tone of neutrality. Take a breath before you respond. Um, Assume positive intent, and your patients can sense that when you have a positive intent, and someone else, you can try to assume that other people have a positive intent as well. Do not absorb all the negativity. You're seeing your patients on their worst day. They're not feeling well and they're at their worst. And also your coworkers are stressed, and this is not always the most where we're seeing everyone at their best, right? It's a hospital. So don't absorb the negativity. Don't take it home with you, and try to control your internal tempo, your, work on regulation, and also leave it at home. Don't take this home with you. Try to, not play it over and over in your mind after your shift, what you could have done different, because um, that's, you just can't. You can, if journaling helps, get those things out, or communities like this where you have a group of other nurses that can talk through situations with you, people you trust that understand. And some of us don't have other healthcare providers in their family. I didn't have anyone to come home to and discuss with a more senior nurse, or friends that were nurses already. I had no one else in the healthcare field that I knew personally other than my new grad nursing friends from nursing school. And so, um, utilize communities like this where, we can vent to each other, and gain understanding and commiserate on situations, and we've all been there. We understand, and that's what this is here for. So if confidence isn't your issue, you can skip past this part. But some of us, I've gone through times where I felt like, I was hot shit, and there was nothing that anyone could tell me. I was at the top of my game, but I've also had days where I just couldn't get that IV, or I've made an error and it just stuck with me. And then from then on, it was just stuck in my head and replaying and replaying. So what helped me was having affirmations and reminding myself that I was capable. I am a good nurse. I'm committed to safe practice, and reminding myself to calm down. And my presence brings stability. And every shift, I'm learning something new. That every shift expands my expertise. So whatever it is that you can tell yourself, if you're having a hard day and you can take a break and go look in the mirror, I highly recommend mirror work. Talking to yourself, reminding yourself that you can do hard things and you are capable. And just remember, we've all been there. Everyone was a baby nurse once before, whether or not these older nurses want to remember that, once upon a time they were new grads as well. And there was a nurse that gave them a hard time or made them feel, inferior. Don't let it get to you. Someday, you're going to be that senior nurse, and you will not do the same thing to those baby nurses. So, one thing I wish people told me when I graduated was the huge change in income that I experienced once I became a nurse. I mean, I knew I was going to make more, obviously. That's why I went to school. But getting my first check, tears came to my eyes when I got it. And I wish that I would have been a little bit more um, thoughtful and planned out better how to maintain my spending. I was young in my 20s, and I just went and lived it up. But this is what I recommend as a new nurse: when you start making that good money, getting those big paychecks, build a $1,000 mini buffer, whatever it is, a good savings cushion just in case. Try not to live outside your means. Whatever you were living at while you were in nursing school, try to maintain that for the first year and just save, put money towards your 401k. Start maxing that out if your employer matches it. But even if they don't, try to put as much as you can into your 401k, or the earlier the better, because that's compound interest, and the longer it grows over time, you will have a great retirement later on in life. You can also take out loans on your 401k once you've been vested. I recommend automating your bills, budget, track your spending, and then, some of us had to start out on night shift, and even just even day shifters have been guilty. But the emotional spending where you worked your 3 shifts, and you are so tired, so you just DoorDash your food to your house, or you go on Amazon and order a bunch of stuff and you don't even remember what you ordered. The, you know, emotional spending where you're just blowing your check. And, nurses, we know it's going to come again in 2 more weeks. You're going to get that auto pay, and, oh, I'll just pick up an extra shift, and, I'll pay for these extra expenses. It's a vicious cycle. Don't start it. Try to maintain your be spending moderately, and if it's a trip, save up for it. But don't be working so much overtime that you're killing yourself and burning yourself out for all the extra things that you need. um, and just remember also, the more money you make, the more you get taxed. So understanding some tax write-offs that you can um, get from talk to a CPA, and they can recommend things that are tax write-offs that you can help you save, because there will be an increase in your taxes. I went from getting tax returns to owing more than I ever owed. And that's part of the reason that I um, like to mention the finances, because our finances do affect our health. And so when you start early on with healthy spending habits, it will benefit you in the long run. And what to do with your first raise. I recommend acting like you never got it and living at the same, um, maintaining your, life to which you have already become accustomed, putting that away, putting that towards your 401k or a Roth IRA, investing in the stock market. Um, Definitely get yourself whole life insurance, not term life insurance that the employer offers you. You can do this in addition to, but whole life insurance, you pay more, and that's why a lot of people don't get it. It's more expensive, but once you've been vested into your whole life insurance policy, you can take out loans, and this is what the wealthy do that they don't teach us in school. You can, your whole life insurance is for when you pass away. It could pay for your house, and pay for things that, while you're alive. While once you pass away, it would help cover all your debts and your expenses for your family, right? But the thing with whole life insurance, where it differs from term life insurance, term is once you pay until you die, and your family gets the money, but you don't get any benefit from that money that you've invested. And say you've invested over the years, but then you go to a different employer, that term in life insurance policy ends, and you don't get any of that money. With whole life insurance, if you were to have a heart attack, or you were to have some life altering injury, your term life insurance can kick in and help support you through your disability or whatever it is. So just keep that in mind. Whole life insurance versus term life insurance. Whole life insurance is the way to go. Highly recommend it. And then first year growth plan. I think journaling helps. I always thought it was cheesy for a long time, but writing down my thoughts and my, you know, ambitions and setting intention, um, getting it out there instead of internalizing, can really be helpful. Creating checklists to make sure that you're getting everything that you need to do completed, especially during your shift, but also at home. So you're not just on your days off, just sleeping through because you work so hard. 12-hour shifts are exhausting. And, I don't know if you have family members that understand, but, you still have the expectation that you're going to be able to provide for the family and do all the same responsibilities that you have to do. But for most of us, 12 hours, you just want to come home and just get into bed and go to sleep. And that's not the case. You still have to pay your bills and do laundry and do the grocery shopping and all your appointments and taking care of yourself. So create a checklist so you're not forgetting anything. Continue to get certifications, education, challenge yourself, ask for feedback from your manager, charge nurses, anyone that the shift prior or after you that's following you, if they have any feedback about um, how they, what you could have improved on, if you're open to constructive criticism, and create monthly goals, especially with your finances. I highly recommend starting early, creating a budget. It's a lot, I know, but you were built for this. You're going to do great. And I highly recommend you follow, like, comment. What I hope this is helpful. I hope this added some value to your life, and that, if this could help someone in any way. I have always enjoyed mentoring people, and I wished that someone had given me the same feedback. And um, these are all the things that I wish someone had told me early on in my career. So I hope you got something good out of it. Let me know in the comments, and like and subscribe. Thank you.